he was actually choked to death. That was the ruling of the medical examiner. A father of 6 was being accosted by cops allegedly for selling loose cigarettes. This set off a firestorm in New York. That's the video there. The police officer was not indicted by the Staten Island DA. I want to go back to Sheriff David Clark, who is my guest right now. Sheriff Clark, when you testified before Congress and you were asked about that, you said that Eric Garner died because of a pre-existing condition, asthma. But that wasn't true. The actual ruling from the medical examiner was that he died as a result of that particular chokehold. Do you believe that what took place in the Eric Garner death, that was wrongful behavior by New York police officers, how Eric Garner was choked and killed?
No, I don't. Not under the rule of law. But let me correct you on something that you said that just simply is not true. We're really going to deal with facts here.
Okay.
And I know facts can be an uncomfortable thing, but we're going to deal with facts or we're going to deal with myths and propaganda. Eric Garner's death was ruled a homicide. But you know what? That's a manner of death. All right? There's suicide as a manner of death, natural causes, homicide, and then there's unexplained. Okay, those are
But the medical examiner ruled it was a homicide.
He ruled it was a homicide.
But,
right.
but when you were asked under oath by Congress, you said it was because of his asthma.
Died of a heart attack on the way to the hospital. Now, there is no doubt, that physical exertion that he had, he was in poor health, that physical exertion did contribute to that heart attack. But that does not mean that the NYPD officers... Are
you a licensed medical professional?
No, I'm not. I'm
okay.
So law enforcement. Are you a licensed
No, because see, I actually listen to the licensed medical professional. And if the licensed medical professional, the medical examiner, ruled it a homicide, he stated exactly what it is. And so when you said, well, it was because of his asthma, well, that was simply incorrect. It was incorrect.
First of all, I didn't say asthma. He died of a heart attack. Okay. He didn't die of asthma. But those were some of the things that the medical examiner pointed out.
Here's my. I asked you earlier about this. Let's talk about. I asked you earlier about Black Lives Matter, and again, I've listened to numerous interviews.
The map here, and it's very hard to get out any coherent thoughts when you're going to jump all over the map.
No, actually, I'm not. I've been very consistent.
We're talking about Eric Garner, and now we're back to Black.
Yes, because
they still never got out of you a definition of brutality.
Yes, because Black Lives Matter protesters, they were involved in what took place with Eric Garner, and then you also, of course, one of the things that they did, that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
First of all, sir.
Sheriff Clark.
When the Eric Garner thing happened, there was no such thing as Black Lives Matter.
Actually, you're wrong, sir. Sheriff Clark.
It emanated out of Ferguson.
Sheriff Clark, you're absolutely wrong. Black Lives Matter. Sheriff Clark, you read off for 3 minutes your bio. Let me give you facts. So you have them for the next time you go on television, you have it. Sheriff Clark.
We can both agree on.
Sheriff Clark. After George Zimmerman was found not guilty of killing Trayvon Martin, Sheriff Clark.
George Zimmerman.
I am giving you, Sheriff.
Ask you a question, though.
Sheriff, I'm giving you factual information.
It's very hard to have a coherent conversation when you're going to jump all over the map.
Sheriff Clark. Allow me to say this.
George Zimmerman was not a police.
Sheriff Clark, allow me to say this so you...
Sheriff, bring his name up.
I bring it up because you said Black Lives Matter didn't exist until Ferguson, and you're wrong. In 2013, after George Zimmerman... Sheriff Clark, can you just... 30 seconds.
Black Lives Matter is an offshoot of the lie of hands up, don't shoot.
Sheriff Clark.
Don't say it existed in Ferguson.
Sheriff Clark, give me 30 seconds.
Matter did not exist.
Give me 30 seconds.
Ferguson, Missouri.
Sheriff Clark, give me 30 seconds.
Well, you talk facts.
Sheriff Clark, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and that's all it's going to take. Alicia Garza wrote a Facebook post, hashtag Black Lives Matter.
I don't know
if you listen, you will have the facts. After George Zimmerman was found not guilty, she wrote a Facebook post using the hashtag Black Lives Matter in 2013. It was at that point where it began to be used. Then in 2013, then in 14, then in 15. Factually, you are wrong.
Some hashtag. Someone posts hashtag on their Facebook, and all of a sudden that becomes the the standard now,
Actually,
right?
no, that's actually how it started.
I never heard Black Lives Matter mentioned during the Ferguson police situation.
Well, but that was sir, because
you know what? Everybody had the T-shirts made up of "Hands Up, Don't," which was a lie.
Okay, but Sheriff,
I'm not suggesting nobody ever used the phrase. I'm talking about as a political construct because that's what it is today.
Actually, it evolved.
It did not exist because someone engages in hashtag activism. Well, fine, but that's not proof of anything.
Actually, the proof is there, but that's fine. But let me ask you this question here. And that is this here. When we look at what's happening around this country, we look at the Walter Scott case, where a police officer shot and killed Walter Scott, was charged with murder. He lied on the police report, and he said that he administered first aid when he didn't.
Okay.
Do you believe that, and first of all, that was videotaped. Do you believe that one of the calls of Black Lives Matter, do you believe that every law enforcement agency in America should be required to wear body cameras?
I don't speak for every law enforcement agency in America. I think that there is a use of that technology in the profession of law enforcement, but I'm not going to say what every law enforcement agency should do.
Does your department have widespread?
I'm trying to get to it. I'm trying to get to it.
Okay.
You know, it really gets annoying, if you will, if you don't let me. If you don't keep your mouth closed enough long enough.
I was just asking, does your sheriff's department have body cameras?
There you go again. Just wait to hear the end of one of my sentences.
Well, but you're filibustering. But go. Do you have body cameras in the sheriff's department?
There you go again.
Are you going to answer the question?
Talk about the body camera. I'm answering a question.
Okay.
You asked, and then you cut me off in the middle of it. We are in the midst right now, the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, of running a pilot program with the use of body cameras that we will ultimately do a full deployment of. Okay, that was your question.
And what's the pilot program? How many folks are wearing the cameras?
Approximately 50.
About 50, and you have a total number of personnel in your department?
About 300 sworn.
And when do you think, how long is the pilot program?
We don't have a time frame on it.
So it might be 3 months, 6 months, a year?
When I think we have enough data, I don't see it being, I don't know that it'd be a year. We still haven't formed the policy yet. You can't just slap body cameras on people and send them out in the field, okay? It seems it's something that simple, but there's costs involved, there's policy, there's privacy rights, there's a lot to sift through. And I want to do this right. I don't want to do this half-cocked so that 2 years, 3 years from now, all we end up doing is a trade-off, and we end up with unintended consequences.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sheriff.
I like to take my time, and I like to do things right.
I hope you've seen that study out of Rialto, California, when they used body cameras there, and they showed that it caused a significant drop, more than 70% of complaints against police when it comes to excessive force, but also it dropped the number of times where the officers said they were also attacked, and so it helped the citizens as well as it helped the cops. I'm going to a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about police accountability in America with Sheriff David Clark right here on News 19 TV1. When we look across this country right now, when we hear the phrase protect and serve, that is about police officers protecting, serving its citizens. Yet when I talk to many officers, they talk about the blue wall, and that is officers protecting and serving themselves. In New York, they instituted a new policy where they require every police officer to report the use of excessive force, and even if you witness it, you have to report it, and if you don't, you face a disciplinary action, including up to termination. When it comes to accountability, is that the kind of policies that are needed to ensure that citizens do not have their rights violated?
Well, first of all, I don't know what New York has as a policy. That's always been a policy. The Milwaukee Police Department, the City of Milwaukee Police, where I spent 24 years, and it's always been the policy of the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office as long as I've been the sheriff of Milwaukee County. You know, you threw out some names before. You threw out the name of Eric Garner. You talked of George Zimmerman, and you mentioned a few others. You know who Layla Peterson is?
Who's that?
Do you know who Tyshawn Lee is?
I know who Tyshawn Lee is. Do you know who Rakia Boyd is?
Do you know who?
Do you know who Rakia Boyd is?
Do you know who Tony Kester Brown is?
Don't know who Tony Brown is.
Do you know who Elliot McKenzie is?
Don't know, but I know who Clarence Brantley is. Clarence Brantley was a man who was actually sent to death row and was within 2 hours of being executed for a crime he didn't commit because prosecutors and a judge actually covered up evidence. That man was almost executed. Here's my whole point, Sheriff. You can name people, Sheriff, you can name people who've been killed.
You haven't heard my main point.
Well, what's your main point?
Names, because you brought those names up, and this is just in relation to the names that you brought up.
Go ahead.
Layla Peterson, a 4-year-old black girl, was shot as she sat on her grandparents' or grandfather's lap when a drive-by shooting occurred and shots were fired into the home.
And I want those individuals arrested and prosecuted.
9-year-old, but let me get to the point here, okay?
Go ahead, get to the point.
Sean Lee, a 9-year-old who was lured into an alley by his grandmother home and shot multiple times in a gang type.
And we've covered it on this show.
Okay, I'm not saying you didn't. Jamila Bolden was a 9-year-old girl who was shot and killed in her home, in her grandmother's home, as she sat on the bed doing homework.
Right. And I also hope you add Ayanna Jones, who was shot and killed in bed by a Detroit police officer when his gun went off. But he, of course, was not prosecuted. But go right ahead.
It really was. Anyway, Tony Brown, a 7-year-old, shot in the head.
I got it, Sheriff. But what's your point? I mean, here's my point. I got about 2 minutes. And so you're reading the names.
Good stuff in, though.
And I've covered many of those. But go ahead.
Chance to get some of my points in, okay?
No, but Sheriff, go. First of all,
come back on and we can continue this conversation.
Sheriff, you open up with a 4-minute bio, and you're complaining about not getting your statements out.
Introduce yourself to an audience who may not know anything about.
No, Sheriff, my audience knows a lot about you. You want to make a point about those names there? Go right. What's your point about those names?
Anyway, in this study that I referred to before at the University of Toledo, between 2009 and 2012. 56,259 homicides occurred.
Yep.
19,000 plus were the killings of black males. That's 33.8%.
Gotcha.
You asked me before about the white representation in the population. If the black representation in the population in the U.S. is at 13%, we are way overrepresented in terms of being homicide victims, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree that it is true that most of these criminal homicides, and I'm going to say it's around 93% because that's what this study says, were committed on black individuals by black individuals?
And in fact, and also according to Vox.com, 84% of whites who have been killed were killed by whites. Because the reality is when people are killed, it's largely where you live. So blacks kill blacks, white kills whites.
But that talking point doesn't hold any water.
No, it's a fact.
Talking about whites.
It's a fact.
What we're talking about here is that blacks are overrepresented as homicide victims.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Why are we not talking about that?
But no, sir, that's where you're wrong. See, I need you to understand something, okay? This is a black show on a black network, which we talk about 5 days a week.
About the black
because Sheriff Clark. Because Sheriff Clark. Sheriff Clark. No.
It's the elephant in the room.
No, Sheriff.
And it dismissed.
Sheriff, first of all, there's no elephant in this room because you know what? We deal with it. The reason we discuss these other issues is because you, sir, when you have gone on Fox and CNN, you've spoken
6,000 homicides between 2009 and 2012. 2.5% were the result of issues of force.
Sheriff Clark, this is very simple. Sheriff Clark, this is very simple. You've been on Fox News. Sheriff Clark, you've been on Fox News.
For good in the United States of America. Here's what they would be protesting. They would be protesting the fact that in this economy, blacks can't find meaningful work.
And they are. Wait, hold on. Sheriff Clark, they are. If you go to Sheriff Clark, if you go to campaignzero.org, they are. Sheriff Clark.
2% black male unemployment.
Sheriff Clark.
That's obscene.
Sheriff Clark, and they are. Sheriff Clark, here's the deal.
It's about 13, 14%.
Sheriff Clark, the reality is here. They are talking about those issues.
Black Lives Matter would be protesting if they really a force for good.
They are.
Protesting the fact that black kids have to be shackled to failing K-12
They are.
schools throughout the United States.
Do you know that DeRay McKesson, who is one of the leaders, is a Teach for America graduate?
Exactly.
Do you know that Brittany Packney is a Teach? See, Sheriff,
Voice program,
Sheriff,
and in the voucher program,
Sheriff,
for those parents who want their kids to break out of this
Sheriff
cycle of
Clark,
poverty
Sheriff
and have
Clark,
potential to reach their
Sheriff Clark,
given potential.
Sheriff Clark, let me help you with something. Sheriff Clark, this is real simple. First of all, I'm out of time. I got to tell you this here. You got leaders in Black Lives Matter who are former teachers, who are current teachers. What you're talking about, they're actually doing. So here's what I suggest. I suggest
the nation's report card. Just
you know what? I will be happy.
Weeks ago,
I will be happy to set up a meeting with you and them so you can actually hear it.
The gap is widening.
Sheriff Clark, you're talking to a school choice supporter.
Still
Okay,
failing.
Sheriff.
Scores are still near the
Sheriff, here's the deal.
working on it.
Sheriff,
working on the failure or what?
Sheriff, you're talking to a school choice supporter, somebody who believes in vouchers and charter schools and traditional schools. So you got the wrong one here. Look, we'll schedule another interview. We'll certainly have you back on the show. Thanks for joining us. We're simply out of time. Thank you so very much.